always say to people, if you have an idea, just put it out.
Feeling lonely isn't about not having anybody around you. It's actually not being able to share things that are important to you and share thoughts and experiences with other people.
What would you say is your biggest advice to someone who is trying to start a company, a creative venture, and doesn't know where to start, or is feeling scared or overwhelmed by how much it takes?
One of the things is make sure that you're choosing a problem that actually needs to be solved. Taking on a curiosity-driven mission in life.
Yeah.
That's a life-changing shift in mindset.
What's your desire, fiery thing that you're excited to learn more about or do more with in your next chapter?
To help people. And I was born with this drive. I will live by this drive. It will always be my driving force as a person.
Welcome back to Be the Train, my podcast. I'm super, super excited for my guest today, Olivia Williams. She is actually one of my best friends. No big deal. But she's also an incredible entrepreneur. She has started a lot of different businesses in her life, and I'm super excited to deep dive with her today on what it takes to be a creative entrepreneur, the good, the bad, and the in-between. So welcome, Olivia.
Thanks for having me, Selena. A delight to have one of our conversations recorded.
Yes. I know, we should just be recording ourselves all the time.
On the record.
On the record. Okay, so I always start by asking this question, and then we'll delve a little bit into your journey. So what does Be the Train mean to you when you hear that?
I loved when you told me that you were writing your book and calling it Be the Train, because it just captures the essence of taking control of your own life.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, that has been such a journey to get there, because, being raised as I'm like an elder millennial and a woman, and it was very much like everybody else is the authority on my life. And so through the journey, I feel particularly in my 20s and 30s, it's been learning to take control of my own life, take control of my career destiny, take control of my health destiny, take care of my mental health, choose which relationships I'm going to be in, what cities I'm going to be in. Yeah. And sometimes you got to get off your own train.
Yeah.
And I love that, because I've used that metaphor for a long time with friends. Particularly when I decided to get divorced. And I was like, I got to get off this train. I created this train. I got on it, and I have to get off of it and I don't know where my next train's going to go. I don't even know if there is going to be another train, but whatever I do, I know that it's time for a change. And so I love that control aspect. And, when a train's coming, it's powerful. You hear it. It's big. I love it.
Yay. Thank you. I love that. So let's talk a little bit about you. I think that, you're one of the most interesting people I know. And you've built a lot of different businesses in your life. And so if you want to maybe first just briefly tell us a little bit about the different businesses you've built and where the idea came from. And then we'll delve a little bit deeper into kind of the roadblocks and the things that you kind of had to do to either keep those businesses afloat or when you decided to pivot and things like that.
Yeah. I feel like the soul of an entrepreneur starts as a kid.
Yeah.
But really the first big true business I started, I launched pretty much exactly 10 years ago. It was January 26th of 2016. And I had been working on it for about a year before that. And I decided that, hey, I have a lot of experience in this tech industry, and I have worked with a lot of different people. And I always assumed everyone else was more smarter than I was, more talented, more credentialed. And I finally realized after working with enough people that they are no different than I am.
Yeah.
We are all the same. They're not smarter than I am. No one's better it doesn't matter. All that matters is that I go out and build something.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of different ideas. And when I quit my job to take this leap of faith on myself, I actually didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew that it was my time.
Yeah.
There were problems that I wanted to solve in the world. And it was time for me to really embark on that learning journey for myself of what it meant to be a creator of my own destiny and a contributor to the world in a big way. So I launched my tech company. It's called an app called Hey Vina.
Okay.
Our headlines the day we launched was in Fast Company and TechCrunch, and it was like the Tinder for girlfriends.
I love that.
I didn't come up with it. I think it would probably be against the law if I did. But really, that headline got the attention immediately of the CEO of Tinder, as well as the CEO behind Bumble.
Okay.
And immediately that day, I had people knocking on my door and it took off like crazy. But the vision behind it was that I wanted to help women meet new friends, because when I moved to San Francisco, I had just graduated college. I didn't know anybody. And friends are such a huge part of my life and community. I am a huge believer in community. And when you are in community, you actually have everything you need.
Yeah.
You'll never be homeless.
Yeah.
You'll never be hungry.
Yeah.
You'll always be able to get a job. You'll always have that emotional support that you're looking for. And so if you're able to have that community, you're actually able to have everything in your life come together.
Yeah.
And in this time in tech, you know, it was a really women in tech was like not quite a thing. It was like a little thing. We talked about it. I had been doing these networking groups to bring women together in San Francisco. And I tried to hack using dating sites to build friendships of my own. And it didn't work because the intentionality wasn't there.
Yeah.
So when you meet a new friend, the intentionality has to be there and you have to be looking for the same thing.
Yeah.
And so it was like, how do I create this place where we can actually find each other?
Yeah.
Not just wherever we are in the world. We can travel. We can find anybody anywhere in any city around the world. Whenever we get out of relationships, whatever new identity we want to take on, say we want to get sober, say we want to take a health journey, say we're focusing on entrepreneurship, or maybe we've gotten married, or maybe we're having a baby. There's so many different life changes that happen. And so I wanted to make sure that people, and starting with women, were never alone in those moments. And so I had this idea for this business. I had never designed an app before, but I always wanted to. And this was going to be my chance to finally put myself in the driver's seat of creating something and being the person who could bring the vision in my head to life.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, those first designs were terrible. But what I did is I took every step of the way from the idea. I started telling people about the idea. The day I had the idea, I was like, you know what? Here's this idea I have. I'm going to go tell everybody about it and see what the reception is. Yeah. That's consumer research. That's market research.
Well, and also, just to add, that's also momentum, right? Because the minute you say it out loud, then it's real. Then you have an idea that you are actually building, and then people start to see you as the person who had this idea, who's building this idea. And now all of a sudden you have a group of supporters, whether you're aware of it or not, that are going, I'm here kind of like just cheering for Olivia's idea to work. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's a big part of it too.
It's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
And accountability.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
If I don't tell anybody and I decide to quietly quit, no one knows.
No one knows. Yeah.
I have to be ashamed.
Yes. That's like,
if I go out and tell everybody what I'm doing, everyone's going to ask me in 6 months, how's that happen?
How's it going?
If I haven't done anything, I'll say it'll be kind of like sad.
Yeah.
But if I tell everyone about it, I have to keep showing up for myself. And that's what you have to do when you're, you know, just starting a new journey by yourself.
Yeah.
Is you have to create that community for yourself.
Yeah.
And that accountability that you don't get in a traditional job or a traditional school environment where someone is holding you accountable on a regular basis.
Yeah. I'm a very big believer in that. And I always say to people, if you have an idea, just put it out, because it's like, there's no like, and like you said, there's going to be a lot of iterations, right? Sure. Like you said, the first iterations weren't great. It doesn't matter. It's like, you have to keep trying. You're not going to get to the good part until you start. But in order to get there, you have to start. And by saying it out loud, then you're actually putting yourself into motion, because you're holding yourself accountable too. Then now people know.
Well, and then people know how to help you.
Yeah.
If people don't know that you're starting a new journey, that you're starting something, they don't know that maybe you need help on this. And I say, hey, I'm creating this app. I'd love to get some feedbacks on my design. Yeah. You know, do you know anybody that can have a look at this? Yeah. And tell me what they think. Yeah. Because if you just tell someone, hey, I want to pick your brain, that is a waste of someone's time. Like no one's going to take your time for that. No one wants to have their brain picked. But if you say, hey, I've been working on something and I'm looking to have feedback on it,
Yes.
then they know, okay, tangibly, this person is already in action, and doing something.
Yes, I always say this.
Two, this is why we're friends. And two, like, I know what I'm signing up for, and I'm not just gonna like spill my life story to someone for 90 minutes over a $5 cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Or $12 cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Much coffee is.
It depends if you're in LA. No.
And so I'd show my designs and be like, okay, I know it's not good. Like, what's wrong with it?
Yeah.
And I took it to all the most qualified people I could possibly come up with. And I'd ask for introductions to designers, and I kept getting feedback on my designs. And I'll tell you that my app in 2017, the App Store named it one of the best of the App Store. And I was a brand new designer of this app. So that's a big deal to have Apple's seal of approval on a design, a first-time designer, a first-time entrepreneur. And I was able to get myself to that point. And it took me a year. It took me a year to finally get there, to, simplify.
Yeah.
And finally I got to the point where it was special and it was magical. And we launched it in January 2016. I had $10,000 I'd been able to rally from like friends and family backers to get a friend to start moonlighting, working on it with me. And she ended up moving to LA for that $10,000. She was like, all right, I'll do it. I'll quit my job and I'll move to San Francisco from LA. And I was like, okay, we're doing it. And it was just, two girls in yoga pants. We launched. We're covered in Fast Company. We're covered in TechCrunch. We're covered in Cosmopolitan, in Elle Magazine. We're covered on the Tyra Banks show, The Doctors. Cardi B reviewed my app on The Doctors in 2016.
Amazing.
It was unhinged.
Well, we love Unhinged.
Yeah. But it went wild. We were press mentioned all over the entire globe on TV. We were then, trending on the App Store within a week. And within a week, we were the only other app aside from Instagram to have over 100,000 downloads in that first week.
Wow.
But
I mean, it makes sense. I think it makes a lot of sense because I think what you're saying is really right about women and community. And I think it is so valuable. And it's actually really interesting what you said earlier about like, I've had a lot of friends who have become sober or, got pregnant or gone through divorce. And all of a sudden their entire friend group has shifted a little because it's like the person who's sober all of a sudden doesn't want to go out anymore, doesn't want to go to the party, doesn't want to go because they're just kind of not connecting in that way. And they need like a new space, a new group to come into. And which doesn't mean that they're leaving those other friends behind. It's almost like they just need to refine themselves a little bit first before they can kind of reconnect with what they were or where they were at. And it's so valuable to be able to have that and to choose for yourself, like, this is where I'm at and this is where I can really find community in this new space that I'm at.
Absolutely. And, feeling lonely isn't about not having anybody around you. It's actually not being able to share things that are important to you and share thoughts and experiences with other people.
Yeah.
And so that's actually, Carl Jung famously said that. And so that's a really big important is to be able to share our life experience and feel seen and heard and understood. And so this app took off like crazy. I raised a bunch of venture capital from the top VC funds. I took capital from Tinder, and we were off to the racetracks. I hired a team. I got an office. And here came idea for number 2 for my company. I developed crippling anxiety through this.
Yeah, of course.
I was kind of like blacking out at my to-do list that was a mile long.
Yeah.
I was overwhelmed. I was traveling. I was doing press. I was doing so many things.
Yeah.
My marriage was in shambles. And
well, it's a lot.
Well, it was unsupported.
Yeah.
So like this journey was unsupported. And so I found myself like crying on the floor of bathrooms or like kind of like disassociated shopping and like wandering around. And I realized I needed help. And so I ended up going to the doctor and being like, I don't know what to do. I have so much I need to do. There are such high stakes right now.
Yeah.
And I can't do the things I promised that I was going to do.
Yeah.
And that was a really humbling experience for me. I luckily walked into the right doctor's office that day because he had me start with a meditation. He was like, all right, first we're going to meditate. And I was like, okay, obviously I know how to meditation, but I can't meditate right now because I'm spiraling.
Yeah.
And then he said, okay, I can of course prescribe you medication, but here I want you to try some of these amino acids. And he gave me a printout from a book called The Mood Cure by Julia Ross. And she's an amazing nutritionist focused on amino acid therapy for particularly mental health and overall health and well-being. And I bought the book. I read the book. I tried these amino acid supplements, and literally within 20 minutes, I was able to think clearly of taking these supplements that this doctor gave me. And I never went back to get the medication. There's nothing wrong with medication, but really, you know, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Medication is a big deal, and we have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
And this was actually a big light bulb moment where like, hey, I can actually take control of this.
Yeah.
And become an authority. And I was so engrossed by this book. It was so fascinating. And I was suddenly able to get back on the horse, focus on what needed to happen for my business, to be there for my team. But the problem was several years later, the product that I was buying was like impossible to find. I had to sign up for like an MLM to even buy it from a website. And so I had a light bulb moment that I needed to make this for myself. So what does an entrepreneur do when they have a problem?
They problem solve it and they start something. Yes, I love that.
Yeah. So that's when I started building my second company with my second husband.
Love that.
Who was a big champion for me and a big champion for entrepreneurship.
So important too. And I say that a lot too, like, because when you're an entrepreneur in any way and you have a vision that you hold for yourself, it's really hard to hold that vision for yourself already. And so then it's so important to be surrounded by people who can hold that vision with you for yourself. And I think that sometimes we don't understand how important it is that we're actually surrounded by cheerleaders, because it can really be life-changing to be around people who just don't believe, or who are very negative, or who can't hold the space for you, or who can't let you take up the space that you need to take. And there could be a lot of doubt. And there's already a lot of doubt, even when you do have cheerleaders. But so it's like so important to have that. I think it makes a world of difference.
It makes a world of difference. It's not to say that that person was bad. It was a mismatch of like life expectations and lifestyles. And so finding that person who really got me and really understood that like, this is who I am. I'm going to keep doing this. Yeah. And I'm a creative individual. So that's how I ended up launching my second company, PYM. Prepare Your Mind.
Which I love and I use all the time. Yes.
And so that's how I got to start my next company. To go from the digital space into the physical space and make physical goods.
Well, so tell us a little bit about Prepare Your Mind.
Yeah, so I brought a few things with us. I took these before coming on because it's absolutely essential for me. I do get anxiety. I do, I didn't actually realize that I had it because I thought, I wasn't having the panic attacks. Yeah. But, I was having jaw tension, the muscles in my forehead, my back, I
have that.
Non-clarity of thoughts. This is like, the difference of stress and anxiety can be really hard to differentiate. Yeah. So what this is a GABA and L-theanine product, and it's orally absorbed. It's a chew. And it was very important to me that it was all natural and there were no sugars. Yeah. Which again is like pretty hard on our mental health, is the sugar consumption that's in everything. Yeah. And unavoidable. And so made this, and I wanted it to be in a package that you could put in your purse or in your pocket. I wanted it to be cute.
It's very cute.
To be accessible. And now this is sold, in 500 stores around the country, or 3,000 stores around the country, not 500. We're big on like Sprouts, and if you're in LA, Erewhon is a big one. I made a smoothie at Erewhon with our magnesium. I also have ADHD. So like I was medicated growing up, and then I decided to quit the medications. And now this is the other one I brought, is our Attention Chews. Yeah. And again, it's all amino acid driven. We work with amazing psychiatrists, nutritionists, holistic psychiatrists, and psychologists to develop these formulations.
Yeah.
And so these are really something that I personally rely on. And I had to make this company for myself. And I knew that I wasn't the only other person out there who was struggling, and that we needed to open up the conversation around mental health, around, being the train of your own health.
Yeah.
And so choosing to educate ourselves on, like, how does our brain actually work?
Yeah.
How does this, like, why am I having anxiety? What are the functionalities? And so anxiety is actually common because it's a deficiency in GABA, which is a neurotransmitter, and it's amino acid. And when you don't have enough GABA in your system, which is naturally found in fermented foods. So if you're eating a lot of fermented foods, usually you'll have great stores of GABA. Like, studies have shown that women who eat yogurt every day actually have lower anxiety because of the fermentation, again, that's in this yogurt. And so if you're deficient in it, it's kind of like, the fire turns on, our fight or flight or stress hormones turn on.
Yeah.
And it's like the firefighters showing up to turn it off, and their hose is like a garden hose.
Yeah.
Or like throwing a Dixie cup of water at it, and like you're not going to be able to put out the fire that way.
Yeah.
And so when you're able to take supplemental GABA, and paired with L-theanine, which naturally occurs in green tea, you actually are able to bring yourself back down and put the fire out.
Yeah.
And it makes you basically back to yourself.
Well, I think it's also so interesting. I think a lot of really successful things start from someone trying to solve something for themselves, and whether that's a story or a company, or I think that so much of what resonates, because ultimately we're so much more connected than we realize, is like, if I'm having this problem, or if I'm having this thing that's on my mind and it's like really keeping me up at night and I want to know how to resolve this, there's probably millions of people who are also trying to resolve it.
Yeah.
And so I think that I think it's so cool that both of your companies seem to have come from that place of like problem solving something for yourself as well, and then seeing how connected other people are to that problem, because obviously everyone's going through similar experiences, whether we, realize that or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was one of my biggest realizations through the work that I've done with Vina, is, interacting and reading the profiles of women all around the world. And like, we are not unique. We all want the same things. I mean, we are unique, sure, in your own special flavor of you, but we all want the same things. We're human beings. We're all craving the same things. We all want that connection.
Yeah.
We have, very similar sets of dreams and desires, and what that looks a little different for everyone, but the commonality amongst everyone is so much more than I think that I was ever raised to believe.
Yeah. And I think also something else that you said earlier that I thought was really interesting, because I get a lot of people who talk to me about, how long things are taking, right? How long things are taking for things to take off, or for the thing that they wanted to. And it's interesting to me because it sounds like actually with your company, it took off really quickly. And then there was a lot of overwhelm of like, oh my God, like, how do I do all of this? And so there's something really, and not to say, obviously you found a way to help yourself, and then to be able to, start separating like what really needs to get done today, or what really needs to, get my focus or whatever. But there is something really interesting about that, because I think sometimes people don't realize that the time that it takes is also like building like a certain way of being able to handle when it comes, or do you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes, like, I've seen people kind of like you said, where it's like something happens just so quickly, and then there's this like paralysis in a way of like, now how do I do this like enormous thing that's like so much bigger than I had anticipated, and now I have to deal with it, and it's it's a lot. It is a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure, and I had to invest a lot of time and energy and expertise hiring people to equip me for this new role I had been thrust into in the public eye, and with so many onlookers, and it was a lot to transform in that short period of time.
Yeah.
And it was several years in the making before, every overnight success is several years in the making. Like I had been developing this community for 5 years before that.
Yeah.
I was showing up to conferences with a clipboard, getting people to sign up for my launch list.
Yeah. I love that.
An iPad, just having them sign up on a landing page. I didn't even have technology. And you know what? I was out there at the conferences pounding the pavement, building that foundational community that was able to rally around me when that day came that we did launch.
Yeah. So what do you think, what was the moment? So like, I mean, as I know you, you've always been a self-starter and a very creative person, but I know that, as you know me, same thing. But there's obviously a version of both of us that didn't know each other yet, that were, more self-conscious, that it was harder to kind of feel like empowered to self-start ourselves. Like, what was that pivot? Like, what was that? Oh my God, I think I am actually ready to quit this job and start my own thing. Like, how did that like really sink in? Was it a moment? How did that happen?
I feel like as a woman, growing up and when I did, it was a lot of waiting to be chosen.
Yeah.
That like someday you're just going to walk by someone and like they're going to choose you. Like a husband, a director, a modeling, I grew up modeling, like an agent was just going to see you and you were going to be thrust and your whole life was going to be changed.
I felt this way too.
That did happen to me once, but it turned out they saw me and they thought I was going to be funny.
Which is true.
Which is true, but it wasn't quite the same thing.
That happened to me once, and it was for a girl band. They wanted me to be in a girl band.
I love it.
That's a story for a different day. But keep going.
And then, when I've always been a self-motivated person. I think partially because my parents, I think they did me a lot of favors by never emphasizing success, but there also was not a lot of, they were very involved with their own entrepreneurial dreams and journeys as adults. Yeah. And so it was left a lot to my own devices. And so I was always the person like I wanted to achieve. I was searching for validation. Yeah. And I never got it. And so it was always like, oh, good job. Is that the best you can do? And I was like, just, can you tell me like really good job? Trophy. I want a bouquet of flowers or like something. And so I was really searching for like someone to give me that validation. And then I moved to San Francisco after I graduated college. And I would see like early stages of the internet, like Twitter was like 2006. And so in 2009, like Twitter was starting to happen and I would see people's websites and I would just look at them in admiration of like, how did they do this? Yeah. Like, how are they doing this? And I would just fiddle around all day long on my computer and work on it to figure out how I could emulate the people that I admired. Because if I saw that they were going out and building these things and creating these technology companies, making these websites for themselves, creating this art project. And so I just thought I just needed to keep working at it, but I was shy. I'm a pretty shy person. This is a very I'm like a
not to my knowledge. I love you. I believe you.
But I've had to muscle through. It's a skill. Socializing is a skill. It's a muscle. Yeah. And I think, we came out of the pandemic and even the most social people in the world were feeling like, oh my God, I forgot how to do this. Yeah. And so it is a skill and it is something that you have to exercise and practice in order to feel good at it. Like no one just organically feels like they're born just walking up and doing everything on stage. Or just can make friends easily. I mean, maybe a little bit in elementary school. Yeah. But it's a practice, something you have to practice, something you have to see, something you have to emulate and admire and learn from other people. And so what I did is I tried to learn and I knew that what I had to do was put away how I felt inside, that insecurity, that shyness or like that fear of rejection and, just show up because the worst they can do is say no. Yeah. And then I'm just still back here in my living room in my pajamas.
Well, and I think one of the things that I say a lot that I really, really believe in is like one of the biggest things I see in terms of people being successful or not in anything is showing up anyway. So like, I think everything you're describing, the fear, the doubt, all that, we all feel that all of the time. And then I think that there's a big difference between the people who show up anyway and the people who let that stop them from showing up, which I understand because it's hard. It is hard to show up in self-doubt and in fear and in not knowing what you're doing. And we never know what we're doing, really.
No one knows what they're doing.
Nobody knows what they're doing.
Literally no one.
I agree.
Accept it.
Yeah. Yeah, and just show up and see what happens because there's no way of building anything without showing up.
You have to show up. Yeah. And that showing up repeatedly, consistently
It's
go
hard.
to the same places all the time. You build community. Having just one person, just having that one person that can show up with you can make a world of a difference.
Worlds of difference.
And that's life-changing. And I was able to find that a lot of times throughout my journey, is finding that one person that is saying like, hey, let's invite everyone we know to a wine bar in San Francisco. And like we did that and 100 people showed up.
Yeah.
I didn't know 100 people. She didn't know 100 people, but people invited other people. And that was the foundation of me building a community, which became a company, which became a life-changing experience.
Yeah. And then also on top of everything else, it changes your identity to yourself, right? Because now all of a sudden you're the kind of person who can build something. You're the kind of person who does show up. You're the kind of person who can envision a dream and bring it into reality. And like, it sounds crazy, but it's actually like a self-identity that like can now become a part of who you are. And then you can go, I'm just going to do it again. You know what I mean? And that's so cool.
I can do hard things.
I can do hard things.
I tell myself that all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of times while we're working out together.
Every day with our children and in our workout.
Thinking, I'm like, I can do hard things. I can do hard things. But if that becomes your internal dialogue, the quality of our life is directly related to the quality of our thoughts. Yeah. And there's someone famous said that. I don't know who, but it's something that has stuck with me forever because the quality of our thoughts is our life. Like that's everything. Yeah. It's actually how we're able to change our own mental health. There's been research that has actually proven that have you heard of The Work by Byron Katie?
Yes, I have. I've read it.
And so
I love
she's
that
amazing.
book.
And I've been able to take classes from her. And so some friends of mine at Stanford did research on the most effective treatments for depression. And you know what? The Work by Byron Katie is the most effective thing. And you know what that is? It's changing your thoughts. It's changing your perspective on what you believe is true about your life. I mean, we even did an exercise about that at my birthday party where we rewrote something that had happened in our lives and we rewrote it because actually quantum physics has shown us that we can do that and it actually changes what has happened. Yeah.
No, I am a very, very big believer in that. And I think it's obviously very hard to do in the moment when you're in the frustration or you're in the not, what the not working or the not. But what's so interesting is just by reframing, there is so much that is already working. And so much of it is actually just being able to see it from that perspective to keep going. Yeah. And I think that so much of what stops us is our own negative thought of, oh, this isn't working. I might as well quit. And it's like, instead of being like, well, let's reframe and just look at what's everything that is working. What's everything that does feel good? What's everything I'm grateful for right now? What's all the, sometimes I do this a lot because, we're obviously in a creative industry. We've been doing this for 10 years and every year we look back at the year, right? Because it's like what we do is really hard to keep showing up for. And we just have to be like, how much did we make happen this year so that we can actually see the progress? Because in the moment, it's actually very hard to see the progress. It's like, I keep showing up. What's happening? But it's like, but then if you look back, you're like, oh, wow, a lot has happened. Mm-hmm. But I have to take the time to look at it,
Exactly.
Yeah. So what would you say is your biggest advice to someone who is trying to start a company, a creative venture, and doesn't know where to start or is feeling scared or overwhelmed by how much it takes? Like, what would you say is some good advice that has either been given to you or that you would like to give to other people?
One of the things is make sure that you're choosing a problem that actually needs to be solved. And so in doing that, it's talking to people and researching and figuring out like what is actually needed. Yeah. And when you're an artist, this is a little different because sometimes it's more of like you need to express yourself. Yeah. And it's more for the art. And when it comes to art, it's not about necessarily my father's an artist. You can't design it like a business. Yeah. So there's two different ways at creating. And one of them is I have something inside of me that needs to come out to show the world. Yeah. And you cannot be attached to whether or not the world is ready for your art. I mean, look at like Van Gogh, who was never successful in his life. But you know what? He had to create. He had to create his vision. Yeah. And it's so tragic when that happens, when the world is not there with you in that moment. And so I think as an artist, you just have to know that your own success is in your ability to express yourself and you're not looking for outside validation. Yeah. When it comes to a business, on the other hand, is you are designing it for a market.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, who are your audiences? What do they actually need? And make sure that it's actually a problem that needs to get solved.
Yeah.
And, that it needs to be solved at the scale that you're dreaming it of. Some things are small problems, and it's okay to focus on a small problem, but you can't expect it to hit a large scale solution.
Yeah.
And that's okay. These are all okay. Not getting attached to what that is, and make sure that you're building a dream that is true to you, and showing up every single day. Like, I had a calendar when I was first getting started, and I would make, my few goals of that day, because I'd be alone in my house working on something. And I didn't have anyone to show it. I didn't have like a deadline from anyone, but I just had to keep showing up every day to do something.
It's hard.
It's hard. It's hard if no one's there to check your work. No one's collecting your assignment.
No, yeah.
Or like, getting reviewed in the conference room. And so just showing up every day. There's some really great books out there. I'm a huge fan of this book called 0 to 1.
Okay.
Which is all about, particularly focused on tech, if you're focused on that, but any big scale business that you're dreaming of.
Yeah.
Huge fan of this book called Be the Train, written by Selena.
I was just going to say, is there another book? I love it.
Actually, when I read, but for real, I read your book. I'm not a filmmaker.
Yeah.
I read your book.
Thank you.
And I realized as I was reading, I'm like, this is universal entrepreneurship advice. This is universal for anyone in any industry should be reading this book, because it's hugely motivational.
Thank you.
And it's hugely applicable to any industry. There's some parts that are like, okay, I don't necessarily need to know how this works.
Yeah.
But I'm still curious. I'm interested. It's good to know. Maybe one day I'll make something.
Yes, I love that. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It means a lot coming from you.
It's an amazing book, and so succinctly written, where it's so easy if you're a busy person to just pick it up, give yourself 20 minutes, and you're like, all right, I walked away with something tangible.
Yeah. Yay. Thank you. I love that. So would you say in your journey, were there ever moments with either of these companies where you were like, I want to just shut this down, or something's really not working? And then did you either pivot and then, or, was there a good time? Like, I'm just curious, because I think a lot of times people don't know, like, you come into a roadblock and you're like, what do I do? Do I quit? Do I keep going? Do I pivot? Like, did you have a moment like this with either of these companies that you would like to share, kind of what you ended up doing?
Absolutely. Anyone who says that they've never experienced this is delusional.
Lying. Liars. No.
But for me, it was always coming back to the people I was serving.
Yeah.
And the results that they were seeing. Was I actually changing lives by the work I was doing? And really anchoring myself, just reading customer feedback, reading those letters where people would write me about their journey with my product or with my tech platform. And coming back to that would always be like instant fuel to my fire, because it wasn't about the problem I was solving for myself anymore. By the time that I solved it with the company, my problem was solved. And now I wanted to do it for other people.
Yeah.
And so it was always coming back to those stories. There are times where I probably should have given up at a certain point, like earlier, but with Vina, we just closed our doors this time last year. So we've been 1 year since we exited the company. Too complicated to get into.
Yeah.
But it was knowing when that time was to, hey, this chapter is closed. I'm ready to go use everything that I've learned with doing this and apply it to something next.
Yeah.
And knowing that mission is still part of me. It's never going to go away.
Yeah.
As I'm sure your mission as an author, as a creator, is always going to be part of you.
Yeah.
And it's going to show up in different ways, and you're not going back to square one. It's so easy to be in your head of like, oh, I failed. It's over. Like, I'm such a failure, a loser, whatever dialogue it's going on in your head, monologue in your head. But you don't go back to where you started. You've learned so much in that process. And what I know now is that I can actually take anything I dream up and turn it into a real thing and bring it out to the world.
Well, and also I think you take what you what you preach in this app into your real life. And I see it. I mean, you have a huge community of women around you. You are someone who shows up for your friends in a very big way. You are the first person to be like, oh my God, let me pick up your kid. If you need to go to the hospital, I'll come to your house. Like that's the vision. That was the vision you were holding. And so it's like it's super instilled in the everyday of your life. And then you get to kind of instill that in the people that surround you. And then that expands. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's expansive through you regardless. And then it like served its purpose in its chapter, but it never stops being expansive through you.
Totally. And, when I built the platform, I basically created like an AI version of myself and scaled it to the world. So that way I could help connect people for new friendships, whether it was all across Africa or Europe or Asia or Australia. And that to me was beautiful. And still, I still have those stories. And I know that so much of that work lives on through the ability of these people who've built these relationships.
Yeah, all the friendships.
That
have probably come out of it.
Bridesmaids, roommates, best friends, mommy groups, shoulders to cry on, travel, journeys around the world together. Those things have existed now and they'll always be part of these people's life journey as they have been part of my life journey.
Yeah.
And with PIM, it's CPG is not an easy industry.
Yeah.
But it's such an important mission that like every time that I give any of my products, like, I'm passing out our magnesium all the time. Every time someone tells me they can't sleep, I like pull out a magnesium stick from my purse. Yeah. I was like, take this. And then the next time I see them, they're like, oh my God, I slept so well. That was amazing. Yeah. Like, I love your product. It's like a good night's sleep is life-changing. And like we need this and we don't necessarily know the solution. And sometimes it takes someone out there to say, hey, like try this thing.
Yeah.
And then you do, and you're like, oh my gosh, so like now I have this new habit, this life-changing thing. And like, this is amazing. It's so much better than everything else I've tried. And like, finally I've solved this problem. And that realization that like, hey, I can solve this problem for myself. Yeah. I don't have to wait for someone to tell me what's wrong with me. I can actually say, hey, I've tried things and this is what's working. And it was effective. Or they take a mood chew and 20 minutes later, they're like, whoa. I'm actually feeling good. Yeah. My friend's husband, she was like, her husband was whistling all day. She's like, what is going on? Like, why are you whistling? And he's like, I don't know. I ate this thing called a mood chew. I think it's working. And so, you know what? Having that realization that there is like a healthy thing you can do to just take the edge off and come back to center, come back to yourself. Those realizations are beyond a consumable product that I'm selling. Once someone realizes that, that's a mindset shift.
Well, I think also you're the kind of person, which I think is very important in terms of being an entrepreneur and being successful. You're very curious. You're curious about how things work. You're curious about your own growth. You're curious about health. You're curious, so you're actually doing the work. You're actually figuring it out. And so that makes a huge difference in terms of how you can build something because you're going, okay, what's already out there? How does it work? How does it exist? How does it affect someone? And I think you're actually one of my friends who like, I ask a lot of health questions to. Maybe too many health questions. No, but I feel like you are actually putting in the time to understand like, how does this work? And I think that that's actually really valuable in terms of creating a product that is really good and really helpful to the consumer.
Yeah. I mean, taking on a curiosity driven mission in life. That's a life-changing, shift in mindset. Yeah. Instead 100%. Of being, and every time I encounter something, like every time I encounter an obstacle in my life, instead of being like, oh, like this thing happened, I'm like, I wonder what was going on for that person, or like why something might have been going on for them. Yeah. And what is going on with me? Or like, maybe how am I showing up to this situation? Yeah. Or what are the environmental aspects that like are happening here, instead of just immediately going into like, I know the answer, or I'm annoyed, or like this isn't working. It's actually just taking on that curious mindset to figure it out. And that's where the problems get solved. That's where your life gets better. That's where your relationships get better. 100%. Because being interested is interesting. If you're running into trouble 100%. With connecting with people or like good dates or something
I always
like that,
say that.
it's the quality of your questions.
Yeah.
The quality of your questions.
I always say that to people, like, if you want to be connected, be interested, because it's like so many people are focused on telling you about themselves, which makes sense. And also we're in LA, which is like people have so much they're doing and so much they want to say. And like, I get that. I totally get that. And then at the same time, it's like the more curious you are about someone else and their journey and what they've been through, and the more interesting you are, because you're learning so much and you're getting like a more profound connection with someone, and there's a lot of value there, and people are so much more interesting than you would think. Like, if you really sit down and talk to almost anyone, you'd be very surprised about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And like, what a gem that in life we can be so constantly surprised by people if we just actually give ourselves the space to be curious and interested.
And if people don't want to answer your question, they'll tell you.
Yeah.
But otherwise, most people will be so thrilled that you ask them.
Yeah.
Like, ask people about their family. Ask them about their hard time.
Yeah.
Share like a small incident about something and be like, hey, have anything like that ever happened to you? Or, don't be so worried about, someone sharing your story and someone responding with a reciprocal story. Like, we've been trained at this point to not do that anymore and just emulate feelings back. And like asking beautifully, like, hey, like, do you want to, where are you with this? Like, do you want to just be heard?
Yeah.
Do you want to engage deeper on this? And how are you feeling about it? Or like, is there anything that you're thinking about? Just really get in there with the questions.
Yeah.
And your relationships will transform.
Yeah. 100%. Also, Prepare Your Mind was also one of our brand partners during our theatrical release. And so many of the influencers that opened the boxes absolutely loved it. So it was very cool.
Glad to hear.
Thank you guys. So my last question to you is what is next for you? What are you thinking about? What are you excited about? Like, whether you have an exact thing or not, like, what are the things in your heart that make kind of the fire? What's your like desire, fiery thing that you're excited to learn more about or do more with in your next chapter?
I mean, for me, I think I have two major pillars of well-being human well-being. That's really my theme of life, is like, I want people to help people. And I was born with this drive. I will live by this drive. It will always be my driving force as a person.
Yeah.
And I think knowing that for yourself is a really powerful thing of like, what is your big motivator? And for me, it's helping people. Like, I want to solve human problems. There are lots of other problems out there. And I'm really thrilled for people who want to save the environment, support them.
Yeah.
People who want to save animals, love that. But like, I'm a people person.
Yeah.
And so this past year, I've been really investing back into myself, living all of these things that I have been preaching for a long time. But really, when you're in it, when you're building these companies, a lot times like your personal needs go away. Like, you're serving the needs of your team, of your customers. And it can be really hard to remember that you are important too. Yeah. That your body, your vehicle, your mind, your relationships are also a priority for your life. And so I've been kind of recentering myself to get a bit more balanced as a mom, as an entrepreneur, as a human being who just entered my 40s.
Well, you don't look a day over 20.
And so for me, coming back to center was a big part of this last year. And this next year, I'm really focused on creating more for people, continuing to bring people to PIM to help people find connection to their own mental health, their own well-being through lifestyle and habits, behavioral habits. And so that's a big thing for me. And I guess we'll stay in tune. I have a few stealth projects that I have in the works of things that I've been toying around with, maybe a new app, maybe a new platform. I don't know yet. Well, stay tuned. It's all top secret for now.
Oh, I will stay tuned. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. And if you want to just let everybody know where they can find you.
Sure. You can find me as Hey Olivia June on pretty much any social platform out there. You can find PIM at pym.com. And RIP Vina. Can't find her anymore, but there's lots of things out there. Just go say hi to someone. That's it.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
Thank you.